Small town interrogation room, evening. The room is dark, lit only by a faint, pulsating purple light falling in through a single barred window. Behind the interrogation desk sits a young woman. Her back is hunched, her head hangs low, and her hands lie hidden from view in her lap. The door opens, and in comes the sheriff. He flicks the light switch, and a solitary ceiling lamp turns on. The woman twitches slightly, but stays motionless afterwards. No matter what the sheriff is saying, he keeps his voice even, almost monotone, as if to detach himself from the meaning of his words. His face remains emotionless, and only his body language betrays the stress he's under. Sheriff takes a few heavy steps towards the empty chair and rests his hands on the backrest, leaning in. 6 hours through. They were dying for 6 hours. Rue, without looking up. I didn't do it. Sheriff lets go of the chair and circles the table with slow, deliberate steps. I was in my office, sipping on a cold coffee. Late night, lots of paperwork. Didn't get a wink. Lucky, eh? Rue looks up at him but says nothing. The pulsating light outside accelerates for a brief moment, then returns to its previous rhythm. Sheriff. The ones in the deep sleep went first, as you may imagine. Trapped in their little nightmares, silent. Not a peep in the last moments of their lives. Not a move. Rue, stressed. I didn't do it. You have to believe me. Sheriff arrives back at his chair and grabs the backrest with his left hand again. His knuckles go white. How? How can I believe you? You are the only one who knows the word. Or should I say, where? Rue. I still am. In whisper to herself. I don't want this. Sheriff. Then how did the science enter the minds of my people? Our people, Rue. How could they slice them apart if they didn't know the word? Rue, defiantly. I don't know. They found some other way. Sheriff. 6 hours, Rue. That's how long it takes them to dismantle a human's mind. After they were done with the sleeping, it was Bay, sobering in the cells. You know Bay? He asked me to lock him in today because he thought, since it was his birthday, Myrtie would give him a kiss on the cheek when she came to clean the cells. He puts his right index finger to his temple and taps it, hard, in an abrupt move. I can still hear his scream in my head. It was like nothing I've ever heard. Rue, barely audible. I've screamed like that before. Sheriff. I can't hear you. Speak up. Rue. Doesn't respond. Looks down at her hands resting in her lap. Sheriff. I never thought you'd be sitting in this chair. Not you. I can't believe I must ask you these questions. Rue. That makes 2 of us. Sheriff. Did you give Science the word? Rue. No. Sheriff. He looks to the window and he's trying to shove his thumb under the wristwatch's strap, but it won't fit. They took the sick in the infirmary next. Easy targets, delirious from fever, minds addled by drugs, weak. We rushed in to help them, but what can a man do to fight a phantom? What can a man do against a force he can't see, can't touch, can't even beg for mercy? Rue follows his gaze to the window. Sheriff, turning back to Rue. You can't comprehend the sheer terror of not being able to understand this force, and yet knowing that it's coming for you next. Rue, to herself in whisper. You're the lucky ones. Sheriff. Stop muttering, talk to me. Rue. What else can I say? Sheriff. That fear opened the minds of my subordinates and my friends, and I stood there watching them fade, conscious, awake. Memory after memory, thought after thought, they disintegrated until all that was left were empty husks. So I'll ask you again, did you give science the word? Rue, in shaking voice. I did not. I'd never do it. Whispering to herself. How much more of this? Sheriff pauses for a moment, takes a deep breath. Why were you hiding in the church, Rue? Rue. I was praying. There was nothing else I could do. I can't fight them. You know that. Sheriff. Why were you praying? Rue. I didn't give science the word. Sheriff. That's not what I asked. Why were you alone in the church praying? Rue frowns, her lips quiver. What does it matter? How does that make me guilty? Sheriff. Were you asking God for forgiveness? Were you hiding not to see what you've done? Rue. No! I was praying because... She stutters and squeezes her eyes shut. A small cut appears at the back of her neck, out of Sheriff's sight. Because I wanted it to end. But the gods didn't care to listen. And then you came, arrested me. To herself in whisper. I can't take this. Sheriff. They reached almost every soul in town. You realize what it means. Rue. I didn't do it. Sheriff. His hands fist, but his voice remains calm, eerily so. Do you realize what it means? Rue. With a huff. Yes, I do. It's all you ever taught me. Sheriff stands up, gives Rue a long look, then turns around and leaves. She's alone for a moment, staring at the wall ahead of herself, trying to find her composure. Still hunched, now she's also visibly shaking. When the door opens again, a young man walks inside. It's Tievan, Rue's best friend since childhood. He walks with confidence and stands straight, but his breath is fast and erratic. He stops when his gaze meets hers. Tievan. Jana. Fole. Paredo. Rue. Eyes widening in surprise. Tievan, you're alive! Tievan, with spite. Gone, because of you. Rue. Her head twitches to the sides as if she's trying to shake off a thought. Not because of me. Tievan. He steps forth. Lomir, Iku, Fanika. Rue. Tievan. Tievan. Dead. Because of you. Elu, Akahin. Rue interrupts him. Stop it! Whispering to herself. Leave me be. Tievan. Each word he says is dripping with venom, as if he's barely stopping himself from attacking Rue. You were supposed to protect us. The guild promised you would protect us. Rue. Tievan lunges forward and slams his fist on the tabletop. Stop denying it! Have a shred of decency and admit what you've done. Rue curls up, but fights for the instinct to flee and manages to face him again. I know what it looks like, but there must be another explanation. There must be. Tievan. What explanation? Tell me. Rue. Her mouth moves as if she's trying to say something but can't find a single word. Tievan slams the table again. Tell me! Rue. Maybe they figured out a new ritual. Or found some powerful ally. How could I know? They don't drop by with updates. Quietly to herself. I'm so tired. Tievan. The guild swore it was not possible. The word barriers are impenetrable. Rue. She straightens up, but her forearms and hands are still under the table. She speaks with indignation now, heartbroken. Then why do you keep asking me if you're so sure I did it? It's because you know there is a chance you're wrong. But you want me to be guilty, don't you? It would be easier that way. Nice and clear. Justice. Tievan. What? Justice, Rue. Do you not understand? Altaka is gone. Our home, our lives, all gone to shit. But the world doesn't end with us. There are others, and the guild must know if you gave up our word, or if they'd all been broken by the science. Is the guild safe? Rue shrugs. Tievan. For God's sake, give us a fighting chance. Rue. I told you the truth. I'm sorry it's not convenient. Whispering. I want to sleep. Tievan closes his eyes and exhales sharply through the nose, then stands up and leaves the room. Rue is distraught. Her eyes become frantic. She's glancing at the door, apprehensive. Another cut appears on the back of her shoulder. Scion, in voiceover. Their whispering is heard only by Rue. They hum and speak rhythmically, almost as if reciting some sort of poem. What is the word? Locking the minds of all the guild, of all the guild.